I think something happened with that email that you sent earlier, or well, for sure.
Okay, so don't talk right now. We're going live. Thanks.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Kerry Cassidy from Projectcamelot. Very happy to be here today. I have DONNA MCGRATH with me, and she is a very interesting healer. And I've had her on my show in the past, in case you're not familiar. And she has been on and off working with Sean David Morton to help him. As you may know, a lot of my audience has been following that to some degree. And so basically, hi, Donna, and
Hi,
nice
Kerry.
to have you here. And so what Donna wants to do maybe is just do a few slides in the beginning, and I want her to introduce herself. She has a fairly complex background. And if you want to know more about her story, you can also watch the prior interview, which will be embedded in the page on my site, so it'll be easy to find. But you can always search on a last name or a first name when you're looking for interviews. Okay. So, Donna, what I'm going to do is ask you, go ahead and share your screen and make sure you have your slide already selected. You know how to do that, right? Okay. Cause
I'm getting the,
have to do.
I know I have the PowerPoint here. Okay.
Okay. And no. Okay, go ahead. One of the things that we wanted to talk about, or discussed offline, and I think it's a good topic, is the idea that one of the things we came across with basically Sean and Melissa, in essence, is that there's a tendency when you interact with the world to want to use mainstream healing methods, even though you're using alternative ones. So people tend to want to mix them up, and they also tend to, flip-flop between the two. And one of those things is that if you don't commit yourself, because, okay, our belief system has everything to do with how we heal. And if your belief system is split, then you use half the amount of energy you could be using to heal yourself, because you've split yourself between two different modalities, in essence. So what I've found is that flip-flopping takes a lot of energy. It drains the person, and it also can interfere with healing altogether. And it has to do with the paradigm that we're living in on the planet. And it's not just in terms of healing, it's also in terms of, belief systems, your spiritual identity, moving forward in your life, in other areas of your life, and so on and so forth. When you have this split and you're not sure of yourself, and you're not, solid in your body and in your belief in yourself, then that becomes a problem. So do you want to address that a little bit, your experience with that with your clients?
Yes, I have a lot of clients that want to do both ways. And I say, look, it's like going down a river and then the river splits and you have to pick one side or the other. If you don't, you'll run into the bank across the way. Okay. So you have to, and oftentimes, unfortunately, the modalities like the Western medicine and the Eastern medicine, they counteract each other. Like in other words, if you do one thing, it creates, it happens. So the chemotherapy, they try to do the chemotherapy at the same time while they're doing natural things. So the natural things don't work too much, because you end up fighting the side effects of the original thing. People should actually ask, what are the success rates of the chemotherapy? And if you really look into it, you'll find that it has a 15% success rate with people. Okay. And the people that do survive are the ones that were strong enough originally with their immune system to fight off the after effects of the chemotherapy. So the chemotherapy is basically poisoning the system, and the whole body has to come up to try to try to counteract the chemotherapy when all you want to do is really, it's sort of like this thing in the consciousness that says, okay, you have diabetes, you're going to have it for the rest of your life. So therefore you have to take this pill, whether it's metformin or whether it's a high blood pressure medicine, and you just have this thing right now, and it's going to extend throughout the rest of your life. That's not true. That's not true. If the traumas, like I was saying earlier in our presentation, if the traumas that originally caused the high blood pressure, let's just do high blood pressure for the thing. The emotional causation of high blood pressure is withheld anger. It's like it builds up inside of you, and then and then you get high blood pressure. So if you do that and you're in a situation over a long extended period of time, say you're in a bad job or a family situation that's very difficult, you have high blood pressure because you're really angry and you don't have an outlet for it. Okay. So anyway, and the drugs that are used to supposedly keep this situation under control are very dangerous, and they have side effects that cause impotency. It causes low energy. It causes sluggishness. It causes heart palpitations. It causes all these weird other things. And then on top of that, what they do is they add different things. Okay, well, now you have, let's say, diabetes on top of that. So they give another drug. I took a course. I took many courses in college, but I took 7 courses in parasitology. But I took a course called pharmacokinetics. And pharmacokinetics is really the study of how a drug metabolizes in your system. So for instance, Tylenol. Not many people know that Tylenol has no antipyretic effects. It doesn't bring down your fever, and it doesn't have anything that blocks the pain receptors in your body. So basically, taking Tylenol does nothing. And it is the most cause of overdose in children these days, Tylenol, because the parents just keep giving them Tylenol when they have a fever, okay? Targeted the immune system. And so if you know that, and if everybody would have had a really strong immune system and would not have listened to the fear mongering that was put out at the time,
right,
nobody would have gotten sick. If everybody would have known.
Well, you could also, I mean, because it was just, I mean, I didn't, I had like a day sickness or something. It was nothing.
I mean, me too.
So, it also, I also want to stress your belief system, because one of the things that advertisements do, and, advertisements on television, they're nonstop, advertisements on radio, in magazines, I don't care what you're doing. And what they're really doing, if you really decipher down all ads, is they're recommending you get a certain disease, whatever it happens to be. They act like they're telling you not to have it. They have a remedy. It's a pill of some kind, whatever. And this is big pharma. They are actually, what the brain does when it sees something like that with the eyes, what they interpret, we read symbols, humans. And so when you see something like that, what your brain, it's almost like a little child. It's only going to get the direct message. It's going to say, oh, sickness, here we go. You want to try this? Here, I recommend, the advertisement is recommending that you can go down this road and get this thing if you'd like it. And, and then you can take our pill. So they're also recommending the sickness along with the so-called remedy, which isn't a remedy at all. And it's a vicious circle. So the one thing I'm finding with people is the biggest problem they have with sickness is their mental state. There's this, right? So there are the levels at which something goes through before it actually gets into the body and manifests. It was already, entering your field. It was already a possibility that you then pull closer to you or push away because you don't need it. Right. So This is the thing. Manifestation on the physical plane is all about attraction and repulsion, and also just being benign with it, just not interested. right? So,
Mhm.
so it's a very important cycle. And maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, because I know you talk about this, you know, the mental, spiritual, physical, we're talking the layers that people need to, you need to address all those layers. You cannot just treat the body. The body is the place of last resort, if you will.
Mhm.
But go ahead.
Okay. So if it starts, that's bad enough. Then you got to have all the diagnostic procedures, which by the way, the biopsies and everything just make it worse because it makes it spread. And then
Yeah,
you
and
know,
let
and
me
then you
just
have that
interrupt
cascade of
one
fear.
second. Okay, when I want to say one thing.
Right.
Sean was relatively fine. He was in a great mood. I had him on my show. A day later, he got a bad diagnosis and he went completely downhill like a rocket after that diagnosis. Why? Because number one, he's an empath. And number two, he took it on board as the truth, as opposed to his own feeling prior to going to the doctor that he was fine and was getting better. He thought he was getting better. So this is like this is what people do. They internalize because they've been told doctors are experts, right? That whole thing,
Right. Right.
experts. So also talked about that a little.
Oh, also, and it's professional and they've been trained and they know and everything like that. Um, um, I, I had a girl very similar right after Sean. Uh, People called me from India and they had a girl. She was young. She was like maybe 22. She had a huge lump, very similar to Sean's actually, lump right there on her neck. And the girl wanted to get chemo. Interesting. The young girl wanted to get chemo. And the parents were they were very wise and they wanted to try natural alternatives before the chemo, but the girl wanted the chemo. And I said, well, and I talked to them. I said, well, where is she now? Well, and she's just next door, but she went to a wedding last night and she was dancing and she was wonderful and everything. I said, well, and they asked me, well, can she do the two things at one time? Can she do the natural and the chemo? And I said, absolutely not. I'm not even going to go there because then I get blamed for her side effects that came from the chemo. Okay, which I'm not going to go there. Okay, and basically I said no, and they decided that they were going to have to go with the girl um, and her decision. So they went with the girl, and she went into the chemo. And within a week, they emailed me back and they said it's just horrible for us to sit here and watch her go through this. It kept going down, 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 and and I just said best of luck with your journey and your decisions. There was nothing I could really do. I could send general Reiki, like best wishes kind of thing, but I there's nothing I can really do. And I knew that she had parasites. She just had to get rid of the parasites. Also, I wanted to throw in that parasites are usually, according to a book called so that's kind of like what you have to do, but you have to concentrate on that immune system and take
Right. So
approach. Yeah.
one thing is that our society at this point, if all you do is just watch television for one day and you will be sent so many sickness ads, it's absolutely insane. So what I do if I ever watch TV, which I don't watch a lot of it, but mostly I watch on the internet, which doesn't have ads, but whatever, is I turn off the sound, number one, and I don't look at it because I know that they're selling something and they are actually projecting this. It is a form of mind control. So this is what I'm saying. It's also in talking to people. So have you ever been around people like older people and all they do is share their diseases. They share they get some kind of comfort from it, I guess. All the things that's wrong with them, that's their conversation. That's what their whole conversation is about. And their doctors. Okay. So there's, especially women having like this kind of weird mental condition, I would call it, where they want it's a daddy syndrome. You have to psych yourself out. You have to understand, that everything comes from within. It's you and God. That's it. No one else. Okay.
Right.
And if you, you're not up to the job, or if you have these hidden things, like you were talking about, various things. It's internalized anger. It can be anger that's unreleased, as you say. It can also be resentment towards people or other things in your life, and so on and so forth. But you have to zero in on whether those things are, because that is where the dis-ease is going to get in. All right. That's the door through which it will come. So that's major. And once you heal your mind and your mental state, you're basically going to heal your body. That's what I'd say.
That's right. That's absolutely right. I've worked, well, there are a couple of things that brought up for me, but regarding those ads, you see, if you turn the volume off and you see people dancing through the fields with flowers and in slow motion. And a lot of these are for psychiatric drugs. And I have worked with a lot of psychiatric people, weaning them off of the drugs and then bringing them back to normal. I have a good case history of a 19-year-old that was on 9 different psychiatric medicines. And I weaned her off of those in 2 months, which was the doctor in Princeton, who was like the most expensive, wonderful doctor in Princeton. Whenever the father of this girl, he was a doctor too, actually. He was a foot doctor. He went to the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist said, "Oh, ha, 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 ha. She'll never get off these drugs. She'll never get off these drugs."
That
And
is
so then he brought her to me. In 2 months, we eliminated the ones that were obvious from the top. And the father directed the whole weaning. Well, I would have a session and then my guides would tell me, okay, she could go down 5% on this one, or 50 milligrams on that one, and we slowly just brought her down off of all of them. And then there are also, people don't know this, but there are a couple of really good natural alternative anti-anxiety supplements that work really well to get people out of anxiety and panic attacks. And the one major thing is L-theanine. It's just an amino acid. It's extracted from green tea, but you could take 2 or 3 of those and just pull yourself out of a panic attack like in 5 minutes. So it works much better than Xanax, and it's not a benzodiazepine, so it doesn't it's not addictive, and it doesn't keep you on that for a long time. And then eventually, and then if you call me and we clear the issues that cause the anxiety, which is always fear projected into the future, like we were talking about before, and also the positive affirmation that you were talking about. I am normal, I am healthy, and I'm getting better and better every day in every way. It sounds, people go, Donna, you're asking me to lie to myself. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm asking you to put more positive thoughts out there so that the universe can create that, and rather than negative thoughts, and creating that scenario. So
right. Well,
yeah, I know.
You know who Richard Bartlett is?
Yes.
Okay, so he's cured of himself of all kinds of crazy stuff, and he's a very spiritual man. But one of the things he uses is time travel. And what he does is that he has had things happen to him, like I don't know, he was on stage one time and he like broke his foot or something ridiculous. And he literally time traveled himself back to the moment before the thing happened, and in essence erased it, and his foot was healed like a miracle. So, there's these kinds of things as well. It's really, your mind is this incredibly powerful. It's, we talk about AI being powerful, but your mind is actually radiating out into the field, and you can even influence other people with your, the way you think. And so it's really how you think. And if you take someone else's view of you and internalize that, substitute that for your own real inner sense of who you are and what you are, then what you're doing is you're putting yourself in the weakest possible place you could be, and you're not going to fight off anything in that version of you. So what you need to do is basically come back to center. And if you're doing a time travel thing, literally you can move your mind to the event and to right before the event when you were perfectly healthy. And you could do that repeatedly. And I'm not saying it will necessarily be a miracle like Richard Bartlett. He is very good at this. He teaches and heals all kind of people. And he's written books, and I've had him on my show numerous times. So, I think he calls it's something like matrix healing or something like that. Anyway, just saying that, it works. It absolutely works. And it can also work for emotional trauma.
I know.
See, people tend to want to attach themselves to stuff, in part because we are experiencers. We are our emotional, mental, this package that we call ourselves, our physical self here in this reality. It's like we're kind of phenomenologists, if you will. We're interested in all these, how do you feel and what's going to happen? What horrible thing can come on? Our imaginations go wild. You can bring yourself into center. You can decide you're not interested in having whatever disease that is. You don't want to end up in a hospital with a lot of people waiting on you and all this crap. It's all in your state. If that's what you want, then you're going to get it. If that's the deeper desire, because we're very desire motivated, it's what you want, then bring that to you, through the law of attraction. So thoughts on that, Donna?
Okay, so that's exactly the essence of my positive negative replacement therapy. And I'm a hypnotherapist as well. So if you do exactly what I do the exact same thing that he does. So in a session, one of the most instant ones that I ever did was really cool. So I had a girl that was 20 years old, and she had something called constrictive bronchitis. So that meant that her lungs were like constricted here. She couldn't get any oxygen to the bottom. And so she was on the list for a lung transplant. Her future mother-in-law gave me a certificate to work with her to heal her. She said, the wedding's coming up and I don't want, my son to be with this girl. She really wasn't very nice. She's like, I don't want him to be with someone that's chronically sick like this. But anyway, she gave me some gift certificates to work on the girl. So I called the girl up and I said, okay, honey, when would you like a session? I said, first of all, when did this first happen? And what you do in all these diseases, what I do is go back to the initial trauma that happened at the time, whenever it started. Okay. So she said, oh yeah, well, it happened whenever I was 8 years old. We were all living in this big house, and it was my family and my uncle's family and everything. And we were all in the living room, and my aunt came in one day and she said, in a tragic car accident. And everybody in the living room went, ah! And she did that, and that trauma got stuck right there. Her lungs got constricted. And I said, all right, well, let's take that. And I want everybody that works with me knows about the double dumpster. I say, okay, let's put it in my left hand in the double dumpster, that whole trauma. And then in my right hand, I put the opposite energy. So I gave the flower essence, quantum energy of Star Bethlehem. It clears present and past life trauma regarding hearing about tragic, traumatic things. It clears present and past life traumas. So I cleared all the traumas in which any time that she heard about her family or about her uncle. And then this is what I do my hand, and I cleared it throughout all time and space. And I went like that. And I said, okay, so when would you like the session? And she says, well, I have to go to my regular doctor this week, and I have to go to the transplant specialist the next week. And so I'll call you in 2 weeks. And I said, okay, fine. She called me in 2 weeks. She said, we don't need a session because when I went to my regular doctor, I was totally cleared of all pulmonary disease. And the next week, the guy took me off the lung transplant list. And she goes, I think it was because I walked around the block and I ate a lot of fruit. And I said, okay, honey.
Right.
And that's how fast, and that's what I do in my work. I put the negative thing over here, and usually you go back to, right, like you said, right before the trauma happened. And you can just put yourself right back in that spot, time travel, if you want to call it. I call it timeline regression analysis. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I clear it throughout all time and space. So anytime that you heard bad news, whether in this lifetime it was that and something, I do it sometimes, you know, with car accidents, I do that. And I say, okay, I clear all car accidents, chariot accidents, times you fell off a horse, times you flew up in a spaceship, any
Yeah.
type of transportation related incident. And I clear that through all time and space. And then that usually heals the disease. So it's a combination of things that I do. But that's basically and then I'm going to be teaching this method so that people can heal themselves. So it's basically what I said. It's you to put the negative incident in the left hand, but I teach the 40 basic emotions that are the positive emotions that you overlay yourself with. And then you can lock it into your body and heal yourself that way, and just do layers and layers until you get yourself healed. So that's coming up real soon.
All right, very good. So, like I said, send me all your contact information and stuff where people can reach you, because I'm sure
Okay.
this is going to generate some, people wanting some, help and healing and whatever else. And one thing to realize is it's not actually coming from the healer. It's coming from God's source, like that comes through us. So what the healer has to do is not have ego, and not to stand in the way of the healing, and also not to stop it even from leaving, because if you become dependent on the healer, and that goes across the board for anything, it's between you and God. That's really what's happening. They are a facilitator. So eventually you don't need a crutch or a facilitator. So that's really learning to get rid of the crutch and so on. So, all right. Thank you so much, Donna. It's been great to have you here. And I hope that everyone will send some healing energy to Sean to help him come away from all of this trauma that he's been through, which had a lot to do with the prison stay, by the way. Right. And that's trauma. So thank you again, everyone, for contributing in the past to both Donna, and to make it possible for her to go and help Sean, and also to send, I think there's I don't know what it is. There's some kind of donation that Sean has, and I think I put it out there before, but I think you can go and find that, and I'll put that on the page as well. So any parting thoughts or things you'd like to say?
I just wanted to say thank you to you and to all of your viewers from before. I believe a couple of years ago when we did our interview, I worked with tons of people and from the show, and all of them were just a really great audience, very easy to work with, and I really thank them. And if anybody that tried to get the healing, I was completely overloaded with people and requests. If anybody that wanted healing before needs to, try to contact me again, write to miraclesbydonna@gmail.com and put session request up at the top, and I will get to you first, and it would be great. So, and I thank you for putting me on the show. And I pray that Sean's immune system gets built up enough so that he can recover quickly. And then that's it. And thank you all to everybody. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. All right. Okay. Thank you. And thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.